shopping, we sent Jethro Miles off to a themed collector's fair to discover the delights of Art Deco.
Throughout the 19th century, ornamentation was the watchword for artists and designers, with fruit, flowers and scrolling foliage all the rage. But by the turn of the century, the arts and crafts and Art Nouveau movement had paved the way for a new, more dynamic style, Art Deco. Well, today, I've come to the London Art Deco and Modernist Fair to see if I can find a bargain.
Well, of course, the history of Art Deco really started with the pursuance from the Art Nouveau period. Most of the goods that you will see from the Art Deco period, which of course strictly runs from the 20s to the late 1930s, is very stylized. And this is represented from an English point of view in ceramics, and particularly those of the household names that everybody now knows of Clarice Cliff, Susie Cooper and Shelley. But of course, that's only the beginning. Many products came to a head in that period. Plastics, bakelite, chrome, and particularly deeply stylized furniture. You can buy a whole range of collectibles, what has become known as vanity goods. Those are for ladies mainly, and their accessories. A cigarette holder, maybe a handbag or a pair of shoes. You can buy something here from as little as £5, or you can spend £5,000 on a suite of furniture. Art Deco was hip, it's stylish, and it's even more hip today with young people.
Thirsty work, this Art Deco hunting, isn't it?
Certainly is. Let's just look at that.
Ooh, how refreshing. Cheers.
Cheers.
What is the fascination with Art Deco?
It's the colours and the shapes, I think, is probably the main thing. It's just the bright colours. I think that's probably what attracted them to me when I was younger. My house is full of stuff. Mum and Dad's house is full of stuff. I think that's probably what it is. You just collect, and it just gets to that point where you think, oh, I can make a business out of this. But at the same time, it's sort of, I mean, there's things here which just hate themselves. I mean, it's really horrible, but you're just like, I don't have it, I want to keep it.
So tell me about some of the bits in the cabinet that are your favourites.
I think these good earrings are really nice because they really sum up the 1920s period, and the little green Buddhas made of glass.
How much would they cost if we came to your store to buy them today?
About £250.
What about the other pieces you picked out?
Another thing is this little watch. You flip it down like that and it opens, and it's made enamel and silver and little tiny rubies in there. I love these glasses because although they're lovely in Art Deco, they're also very functional because you can take them out with you if you need glasses to read in a restaurant or something, and you can flick them in your...
That's a very convenient spot.
I know.
Well, I've managed to spend £140 on the light of my life. She's made of chrome, she's got beautiful lines, and she's going to sail her way into my bedroom.
Let's hope Jethro's not in for a stormy night with his new acquisition. Well, if you're interested in visiting the next Art Deco fair, details can be found on page 331 of Foretell and also on the Channel 4 website. My first guest today is no stranger to the programme. Robert Opie has 2 museums dedicated to his advertising and packaging collection, and he's brought along a selection today to illustrate what products were available to shoppers in the 30s. Robert, welcome back to the programme. What new brands came in the 30s?
Well, it was a great time for new innovations, and I brought 1 or 2 of the most exciting ones here today. Towards the end of the 30s, in fact, Nescafe arrived, instant coffee, really for the first time, although there was a product called Bantam a few years earlier than that. But for the set who are really into cocktails, Twiglets arrived. And for the tea drinkers, 2 new Brook Bond brands. We have a digestive tea, which turned into PT tips, and the Brook Bond Dividend tea, which is well known, of course, many years later on.
Was this really the first time lemon barley water?
Yes, in this made-up form. It was crystals before. And then we also had Born Vita in 1933 coming through, and beer in a can for the first time, believe it or not. Breakfasts were a great thing, but cereals are coming to take over the traditional cooked market, with Weetabix coming in. Rover biscuits, 1930. But for children, Bourneville Cocoa decided to put little animals in and characters made out of metal.
Good marketing ploy.
Wasn't it terrific? And Ovaltine, of course, we all know the Ovaltine is, that arrived in 1935. And by the end of the 30s, 5 million children were members. Extraordinary.
Lots of confectionery arrived on the scene.
It was a pivotal moment, really was. I mean, so many brands today started in the 30s. We have Black Magic in this wonderful deco box. We have Rolo, Aero. Kit Kat arrived, but was first called actually Chocolate Crisp until they changed the name to Kit Kat. Cadbury's introduced Roses, Macintoshes brought in Quality Street, and I love this particular pack here with this Voguish style design.
That's very of the time,
isn't it? Wonderful, yes. Don't forget Maltesers.
Now, for the housewife who had to say goodbye to her domestic help, what new products were launched to help with the weekly wash?
The weekly wash was really important, and Oxydol came in 1930. We'd had Rinso and Persil for many years before that. Towards the end of the 30s, in fact in 37, Dreft arrived. It was one of these new synthetic powders which rarely came into its own during the 1950s.
Bars of soap I see over there.
That's
Lifebuoy,
right. Toilet soap was really been around for many, many years, but it really made its mark in the 30s. There was a big competition between the manufacturers. I mean, Palmolive soap had been around since 1913, but when Lifebuoy came along in 33, they were selling for about threepence a bar as opposed to ninepence many, many years earlier. So everybody could now afford them.
I love the adverts you've brought in, and some for corsetry, the fashion all over the world it announces.
Well, I love the graphics on these there. They're so stylish. But of course, with corsetry, the whole tenor of this moment, fashion-wise, was a slimline figure. And to encourage that and to promote slimming and a healthy life, as this particular pack says, a lot of these brands came in. Enogen, McVita, Vita Wheat, Darvita, and of course Ryvita crisp bread, and it became a real vogue to eat these kind of little nibbles, in a sense, for women in particular.
So once women had done the chores, could they sit down and relax with some new magazines that had appeared?
Absolutely, and films are really taking off, and you have a plethora of film magazines coming, and these of course influence the market a lot. People were wearing lipstick for the first time, they were watching the fashions very much more closely than they'd ever done before, and you know, men were slicking down their hair, you know, perhaps with something like Brill cream, which was really the mark of the 30s. But of course, with women's magazines in particular, Woman's Own had started in 1932. We also have Woman coming in later on, and the big innovation in magazines was Picture Post, which really saw us through the 40s.
Shirley Temple, I see, enlisted to help promote
yeah.
a particular serial.
Well, you know, she was a great character of the 30s, and there she is promoting my cereal, Puffed Wheat.
And don't tell me sliced bread came in the 30s too, did it?
Believe it or not, yes. It was really very much an innovation of the early 30s. In America, they'd had it since the late 20s. But wrapped bread, which we really need for sliced bread, had come in a bit earlier, and that, in fact, wrapped it all up nicely.
Fascinating. Lovely to see them all. Bring back some fond memories for many people, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Well, to fashion now, the way a well-heeled woman dressed in the 1930s was just as important as it's been for the moneyed classes in any other decade. A wealthy woman then would have required many different outfits for her busy social schedule. Lisa Goddard was given the enviable task of going to meet a collector who has more dresses than even the smartest socialite could have worn in a single day.
Well, Elizabeth, here we are in this stunning setting under the Peacock Dome in the beautiful Burr Island Hotel. It's the perfect place to show off some of your collection.
Yes, first of all, I must say I'm thrilled to be here. It's wonderful, it's so authentic.
How did you start your collection?
Well, I started as a model in the 60s, and I was asked to do a fashion show for charity. And in that show, there was some beautiful old clothes, obviously, and that really started me off. I've been collecting ever since.
And how do you find your clothes?
Well, jumbled, charity shops, I'm given them. The nicest part, really, for me has been finding parcels on my doorstep with little notes saying would I look after them. From old ladies in the village I live, and around, you know, so very lucky.
That's really sweet. I suppose they think you'll give it a good home.
Absolutely. They've had them in their attic for many years, and, you know, they know I'm going to look after them and hopefully show them to the public.
Elizabeth, we have two gorgeous girls modelling for us here today, Jemima and Louise. What is this that Louise is wearing?
Louise is wearing a ball gown in black crepe with a bias cut hem with a cutaway under the bosom there, which was, I think, quite racy.
Saucy, I'd say.
Well, yes, both of those. But very, very nice anyhow. And Jemima's wearing a flapper dress. They were usually beaded, quite heavily beaded, but I really liked this when I found it. It's nice and plain, beautiful crepe. Very, very nice.
Now, Louise is wearing a shorter number.
Yes, she's wearing a black cocktail dress in black chiffon, made in France. Very beautiful. It has beautiful sheer sleeves and also diamante on the shoulders and on the cuffs. Jemima's in an lovely evening dress in cream with a lace inset, and over it is a beautiful satin long evening coat. Beautiful embroidery, hand embroidery.
And then this lovely cream one?
That's just an evening dress, an evening gown in cream crepe with lovely beading. Very beautiful bias cut, which was used a lot in the 30s. It moved so beautifully, you know.
It was really all about glamour, wasn't it?
Yes, I think so. Yes, it was a very glamorous time.
Elizabeth, one of the best things for me about period clothes is the social comment they provide. But what would be a typical day in the life of a well-to-do 1930s woman?
Well, she would spend the day probably getting up reasonably late. She would sort of get the servants to do their jobs, and she'd probably be wearing a beautiful outfit that Louise is wearing. A satin peach negligee with a nightdress underneath, both with handmade lace.
So after she's swanned about in her negligee, what would she change into then?
Well, she'd probably have a day dress, which would be very beautiful, a green satin with inverted pleats, cut to just below the knee, and belted.
So she spent her day, and come the late afternoon after tea, I imagine, she would change again.
Of course. For the leisurely woman of the 1930s, she would change into a cocktail dress, spend maybe her evening at home, at the bar, or go out with friends.
To have cocktails?
Absolutely.
And then she'd change again?
Yes, of course. The whole day was changing clothes. And the final thing she would wear would be a beautiful evening gown in peach satin, which is beaded with pearls and diamante.
Do you have any other favourite evening?
Yes, I have a beautiful 1930s gold lurex evening dress, very beautiful, which is worn with this lovely reversible coat.
Now, one of the most important dresses in a woman's life, really, is her wedding dress. Do you have any?
Yes, I have 7, all from different eras. But my favourite is this 1930s tea rose satin with little flowers on. It's quite beautiful. When you see it in the light, it shimmers and shines. Really wonderful. And that was given to me.
So what do these clothes mean to you?
Oh, they mean nostalgia for the era, the glamour, and the romance of it all.
Glorious. Well, that's it for part 1. There's a short break next, but don't go away. In a moment, we'll be looking at a house which holds the key to understanding the decor of the decade. And I'll be meeting a man who's mad on 1930s ceramics. See you in a minute.
I can't take this place anymore.
Tell me about it.
I have an interview next week.
Design and marketing.
You do?
And this is the break room. 3:30. Thought I might find you here. This is Matthew. He'll be starting in IT on Monday. Come on, Matthew. Matthew!
Cute. I had an interview next week. You really should go to that.
If you're over 50 and think it's too late to arrange life insurance, think again. The Cornhill Direct 50+ Senior Security Plan offers peace of mind especially for people like you. To find out more, just call 0800 22 6655 free and we'll send you an information pack. The 50+ Senior Security Plan is very easy to arrange. You can do everything by phone and post, no fuss or bother. And the premiums are attractive too, from just £8 per month, which means you and your partner can each afford to take out cover. That's right, just £8 per month, and there's no medical, just straightforward, easy payments and fuss-free settlement. no one likes to think that the worst might happen, but if it does, the 50+ senior security plan guarantees a cash sum payment to your partner or loved one. So if you're aged between 50 and 80 and want to apply for lifelong peace of mind, simply ring Cornhill Direct free on 0800 22 6655. That's 0800 22 6655. Call now.
Welcome back to this special collector's lot dedicated to the thrilling 30s. My next guest today is an expert when it comes to 1930s ceramics. Greg Stevenson has kindly brought along selected pieces from his collection to tell us about the changing face of ceramic design. How did you become interested in 30s ceramics?
I started when I was quite young, probably about 8 or 9. I think I was probably a bit of a strange child. My parents had got a very modern 70s house done out in the very latest style, but I wanted everything old. And I insisted on having a brass door handle on my side of the door in the bedroom. I had dado rails, and I was just interested in having everything old, junk shop stuff. And from going around junk shops, from going to car boot sales, I started picking things up.
Which are the pieces you had as a boy?
Probably some of the pieces over there on that side, some of the cheaper pieces, angle handle teacups. I just like the bright colours and the shapes.
Art Deco is often used as a blanket term for all 1930s ceramics. Is that accurate?
It's not accurate at all, really. Art Deco should refer to what's going on in Paris in the mid-1920s and before then.
So what other styles were around at the time? How can you illustrate them for us?
Well, in Britain, what we have is a translation of what's going on in the continent. So we have a form of modernism and we have a form of Art Deco. We can say in Britain that what we have is pots that are called Art Moderne. That is, pots that blend the two styles together.
So have you got any genuine Art Deco here?
There's perhaps just the one piece, which is this dog here. This actually come over from France, and we can say it's Art Deco because of the symbols that it's using. If we look at the pieces that were exhibited in Paris in 1925, we have lots of pots and furniture with symbols of leaping animals, leaping deer has been very popular, and because of that image, the leaping animal, we can say that's an Art Deco pot.
And the British version, Art Moderne?
Art Moderne, well, probably anything you see on the table in front here, apart from a few examples, such as by Keith Murray, which are actual modern pots. The rest of them really are what are classified as Art Moderne.
So these were Wedgwood pots, weren't they?
They were produced for Wedgwood by Keith Murray. He was an architect, and they employed him on a freelance basis to produce some pots in the mid-1930s.
This shape, is this very typical of the period?
It is very typical. Keith Murray designed this particular vase here, and anything with ribbed forms. As he was an architect, he was interested in simple forms. Shape became very important to him.
Now, Clarice Cliff is a name we all recognise. You've got some of her plates over here.
I do indeed. And the interesting thing really with Cliff's pots is they all look very modern. You see these angular handles on the teacups or what have you, but in practice they're actually very hard to use. So although they look like they're modern pots, the shape of them isn't produced, but the shape of them hasn't come from their production process, so they're not modern in that sense.
Her prices have gone up enormously. Does that mean that some fakes have started to appear on the market?
They certainly have, and I've got a couple of fakes with me here today that people have given to me. I give lectures on deco ceramics and they're very useful for me to use. We've got one at the front here. This pot is an actual 1930s pot, but some dealer has stuck a modern transfer underneath it which says Clarice Cliff.
Oh right, yes, you can just see it beginning to peel off there, can't you?
It did do. Well, the person that bought this, when they took it home to wash it, the label started to come off.
How affordable was a lot of this china at the time when it came out?
Well, it was relatively affordable, really. If you think of the pots industry in the 30s was basically struggling, so the smaller and medium-sized manufacturers had to come up with new styles and new shapes to be able to sell their pots.
How much of an appetite was there for all these new designs?
Well, they were successful. Many manufacturers were successful, but we must remember that something like probably 3/4 of all the pots produced in the 1930s didn't look like this. They weren't what we call Art Moderne pots at all. They're very traditional things like Blue Willow, for example.
Oh, and the old roses pattern too, that was around a lot,
they were
wasn't it?
big sellers. They always outsold, and even Clarice Cliff, only 1/4 of the output of her factory was actually the bazaar ware.
These hand-thrown pots are magnificent, aren't they? What make of these?
And these are produced for Langley, actually. There's some more just on the other side there, and they're very interesting just in terms of smaller pot banks. Even some studio ware pot banks are actually producing some modern-looking pots. They're copying the machine-made style, but in the handmade form.
This house has some bezic, and I see some more bezic that you've brought here today.
I brought some along there. I like to use them in lectures because they illustrate the way that certain manufacturers are playing with glazes, playing with new matte glazes and running glazes, just really to produce affordable ceramics.
Very interesting. Thanks very much for coming on the programme today.
Thank you.
Well, if you've got a collection which you're passionate about, whatever era it embraces, do let me know. You can write to me at the usual address, Collector's Lot, PO Box 17, Plympton, Devon, PL7 5YG. No programme on the 1930s would be complete without taking a look at the distinctive decor which was popular this decade. Laura Beaumont took a step back in time to meet a couple whose love of the 1930s is reflected all around them.
Now we've got passenger airbags and electric windows, but nothing beats the smell of old leather and the feel of polished ash beneath your fingers. Now, I'm not on my way to a wedding, but I am on my way to see two people to whom the phrase 1930s was not so much a date as a way of life. Now, you two gradually discovered that you liked the 1930s, didn't you? How did that happen?
Well, it started off with a piece of furniture we bought all of 11 years ago now, and it was a 1930s bureau. And we found it in a house where the lady was going to take it out and put an MFI unit, and she was going to put it on the tip and couldn't believe we were interested.
Some of the pieces that we bought have been pretty grim to start off with, but I've got quite good over the years of restoring walnut furniture and radio cabinets. So we bought some things quite cheap and I've restored them, and they look quite nice now.
Now, this house is the most perfect setting for all the lovely furniture. Was it difficult finding a 1930s house that hadn't been tampered with in any way?
It was difficult to find, yes. We spent probably about 6 months looking around this area.
We decided we wanted the house, as you said, but we hadn't been knocked around with too much.
The old lady had bought it when she first got married with her husband in 1937, and they lived together here ever since, and it hadn't been changed. It was lovely. In the kitchen, what made it for us was the Rayburn, the old Rayburn that's been there since we bought the house, which is lovely.
And the bathroom's pretty original, isn't it?
Yes, it was nice finding a bathroom with all the original tiles. So many have been ripped out or tiled over the top. We've even got 1930s lino down as well.
My favourite piece in here is the clock with a little boat in it. Where'd you get that from?
Well, that was quite a find. That I go to quite a few jumble sales, and I'm always first in the queue. And when they let us in, I run to the electrical department, and where there's old clocks and radios, and I saw this strange-looking clock, which I bought for £1, and I've since discovered it's worth about 450. So
Goodness.
I did quite well.
Now, behind me is a cabinet that looks on the outside like a normal cabinet, but it's not, is it?
No, it is an old-fashioned cocktail cabinet, but hidden inside is the television, video and stereo system.
Cunning. So what have you got in the little room next door?
That's the dining room.
Dining room.
A few radios and a collection of our Bakelite.
And not just radios, also records?
I collect pre-war dance band music. I've many hundreds of them.
Do you two actually listen to them?
Yes, all the time, really. And even our son, he's got his own little 78 record player in his bedroom.
Why do you love it so much?
Well, just the style, the shape of things and the design element. Just so many interesting and fascinating things were designed and made.
I noticed you don't dress up in the clothes, do you?
No, we don't go back quite that far.
You've drawn the line there.
Well, we have a family, so our feet are firmly on the ground, really, in that respect.
What a wonderful house. I can see the attraction. Well, I'm afraid that's all there's time for today. I hope you've enjoyed taking a look back at this era of change. Maybe it's inspired you to start a collection relating to the decade. See you again soon, but for now, bye-bye.
We've sizzling crime drama on for Robbie Coltrane and Ricky Tomlinson star in Cracker at 10 o'clock tomorrow. And stay with us this afternoon for the quiz hour, starting next with 15 to 1.
Every year, 50,000 Irishmen invade this natural amphitheatre. They drink thousands of gallons of the black stuff, gamble millions of the folding stuff, and watch the greatest horses race head-to-head. It's the holy grail of horse racing, the Cheltenham Gold Cup. Me, I'm putting the money for the new roof on the 315.
You can receive the official Cheltenham Festival 2000 magazine at the cover price of £3 with free postage and packing by calling the free phone number 0800 169 5507. All major credit cards and debit cards are accepted and lines are open Monday to Friday between 9 AM and 5 PM.
Before you choose a holiday, ask yourself some questions. For your Ireland Holidays brochure, call us free on 0800 55 5500. Ireland. Live a different life.
Quick-step laminate flooring can now be installed without glue. You decide where to start and it's finished in no time. You push the panels together and click, it's ready. Another advantage, you can walk on the floor straight away. A perfect finish every time. Quick-step, the floor with character. You can reinstall it up to 3 times with the Uniclick system. For more information, call us free of charge. 0800 959 230.
This could mean days without heat, endless phone calls, expensive repairs, or it could mean a single phone call to British Gas. Avoid the nightmare of a heating breakdown with British Gas Central Heating Cover. Call 0845 609 4000 now.
For your Ireland Holidays brochure, call us free on 0800 55 5500. We're waiting for your call.
Fasten your seatbelts. Deals on Wheels is back.
The only car programme that tells you exactly what you need to know when you're buying a second-hand motor.
We mean real wheels.
Hi, my name's Luke. This is my Mini. I need some money, so it's got to go.
We come to look at a Mini. Let's go and see what we can do.
Looks like he knows what he's doing.
See what little Jim does. 150.
And real deals.
70. 180. Lovely 50s, very rare. Lovely.
Deals on Wheels. The new series starts Tuesday at 8:30 on 4. Experts search the Sahara and go to the ends of the earth looking for the biggest meteorite ever to fall on this planet. That's tonight at 8 here on 4.
Robert Christie from St Austell in